This is a winter storm warning from the National Weather Service. Winter storm warning in effect. Heavy snow possible. Total snow accumulations of 14 to 24 inches possible. Accumulations up to 30 inches possible make travel could be very difficult to impossible.
Hey, I'm Brent Gardner. Welcome to the Savage Mountain Collective podcast. This is the likely last week of the ski season kicking off for most people. And so as we get there, we have a few things to talk about. There's some stories in the news today, some opportunities to talk through what we should be doing as we get ready for these summer months. And then hopefully a little bit of thinking forward to next year and our gear lockers. So without much ado, let's kick it off. All right. I think this year has been a really interesting one. We talked about that a little bit last time about what we saw in the West with really challenging conditions compared to what they're used to anyways. But what is the downstream impact of that? I think we saw some of that this week with the reports that came out that skier visits collapsed down 9 million from last year to 52.6 million, and that marks the second largest annual decline in the history of the U.S. ski industry. What does this mean? What does it mean for resort pricing, for jobs, for the future of regional hills that have very different economic situation than large passes? What does it mean? I think that's kind of one of the big stories coming out. I think for all of us, we recognize that it was a challenging year, but 52.6 million people still got out skiing this year. I was one of them. Really enjoyed my opportunity to be out there, but the economics of running a ski area today are crazy. The increased cost means fewer people can afford to do it, and those prices are probably not coming down. Ski resorts have the same challenge that American families do, which is the gas to get to the resort, the cost of everything, every piece of equipment, every repair, every shop that has to pay to keep its lights on. They're all up. And so across the board, everything is getting more expensive. And it's just one of those things that a family budget, when you're having a real conversation about what stays and what goes. The question of skiing is not the same as, let's say, electric or medicine. And so this is going to be tough. But also, that reduction in the number of people coming means something for these resorts and what they can afford to do. How long can these resorts continue to afford providing jobs for people if the skier visits don't support the economics? That's a real concern. There's a lot of mountains, big mountains, with huge amounts of capital being invested in them, at least in the current economy, that are in a different situation than independent hills. And Eric Mogensen and the folks at Indy Pass, they represent a market of mountains that are perhaps less able to absorb this. And I'm not talking about the top of each one of those passes. I mean, if you've got like a J Peak, I think they're going to be able to handle it better than some of the smaller mountains on those passes. If you're sitting on Mountain Collective, and I'm pretty sure Big Sky is available on there, these Boyne resorts, they're in a different situation than some of the smaller resorts on these pass systems. And so, the economics of this can't go on forever. And look, I'm hopeful that the inflation crisis goes away, but, it's proven to be sticky. Since the pandemic, I mean, the costs associated with running any business, let alone a capital-intensive business like a ski resort or like a ski company, they're through the roof. And so how long can this keep going? These are some real questions that we're going to have to deal with. But, in the face of this, a new pass challenger has entered the fray. The Snow Pass is launching this fall, and it's under $400. 15 to 20 resorts with that same 2-day model. It's basically like Mountain Collective, but a little bit less expensive. Is this another one of those scrappy alternatives that skiers have been waiting for? Or is it just more noise in an already crowded pass marketplace? I think choice is really awesome. I think it's the way that the market is going to be able to react to these times. And so I think we should welcome it. I'm looking forward to learning more about it as we get a little bit closer. Epic Pass's deadline is coming up on May 25th. That's coming up fast. And the opportunity to get 6 friend tickets at 50% off disappears at that point. Obviously, this is the way these big passes work. You get the cheapest pass and you get the most benefit the earlier you purchase it and lock it in. And as I talked about in the last episode, you really shouldn't be following YouTube weathermen. You really shouldn't be looking at models for next year. So we're daring ourselves to be lied to. But I mean, look, history says in El Nino years, we're going to have some pretty sick snow. Look, it's tough. I mean, where are we going to be by this time next year? Gas is almost $6 a gallon right now. Can you afford to go enough to make good use of that pass? I know we saw Spirit Airlines go down. There's a number of other low cost airline alternatives that are going to be in trouble. If you don't live on the mountains or near the mountains, how is this going to impact the economics? And so these are tough choices. I don't think it's going to be easy for most people or for most families to make these decisions. But ultimately, these passes are coming up, and so if you're looking to try and make a purchase and you want to do it at the best price, buying early makes a ton of sense. I didn't mean to start off with challenges without going through some good news too. And let's go to some good news. I think it's been overblown at times, but it's just not the kind of year that ski areas are used to. However, some resorts are still going. Mammoth in California is saying they're going to keep going until May 31st. We've got Killington and Black Mountain in the east duking it out for the crown. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them tries to open a day later than the other one to try and keep it going. I think it's healthy competition here in the east. I've seen photos online of Boyne Resort in the Midwest staying going. And of course, the ever present late season Arapahoe Basin still doing great. And I don't know about you guys, I haven't turned off my Open Snow app yet. I kind of wish I had, because over the past couple of days, I have watched snow continue to roll in the west. I clicked into my Snowbird app today and saw like 8 inches on the snow stake. Like, give me a break. I cannot believe that now is when we're seeing it after these resorts have all closed. And Banff Sunshine has almost half of its resort still open and all but a couple of its lifts are still running. I mean, look, there's a narrative about this year, and then there's what's still happening at a lot of these places where these resorts are just doing a great job. And, if you are Blackcomb or you are Banff, you're not just skiing, but you're great skiing. There's opportunities to get those spring laps in like a normal year, or maybe even better. I'm pretty sure Banff has broken its record at this point. And so, really exciting opportunity to get up there and try and get those last laps in. Ultimately, man, people are still skiing. We should be celebrating this. Really exciting stuff. Obviously, this time of year in spring, this marks the beginning of the backcountry spring laps touring season. I'll be honest with you, the best I have ever done at backcountry skiing is watching it, admiring it, and wishing I could do it on YouTube. This has been a tough year for the backcountry, even for the side country. We have seen a substantial amount of deaths in the backcountry, and it's been highlighted in a lot of different podcasts and in the news in Utah, all over Colorado, horrible tragedy in California. The question of avalanche safety, of good decision making, all of these things have become critical questions that the skiing world is trying to tackle. And it's not easy. Clearly, this is a place where there's room for us to continue to get better as a ski community, but also look for those of us who are really looking for more ways to extend our season. Spring touring is an exciting opportunity, and it's one that I think people have to look at and say, if we're going to see resorts closing when there's still great snow falling, how do we ensure that we're giving people what they need to be safe in the backcountry? Because that becomes the option that's left. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of hoping to learn more about what the answer could be for this, because I think it's going to become a bigger part of what we do. I think resorts that struggle are going to see skier numbers at the end of the season go down. They're going to close. And people that still want to ski and snowboard and splitboard and get into the backcountry are going to do it. And so, how do we make it as safe as possible? How do we ensure to the extent that we can that not only are we hoping that guides are available, but for people that do it, they help introduce folks the right way to the sport. And so, look, as an admirer at this point from YouTube and afar, I recognize it's still an issue that we have to be able to tackle as a ski community, and I think that's just something that we have to keep out there. So the season has come to a conclusion, and it is time for you to figure out what to do with all the gear that is either still in a bag from your last trip, in the trunk of your car, in the Thule or Yakima rack above your car, or maybe you've taken it, washed it, and hung it up. But how do you give November you a gift in May? And so I think it's important for us to walk through what does it take to put your stuff away so that you're ready for the first big dump or for the first day the resort opens. This is not something I used to do. Dealing with rusty edges the night before ski season was a tradition for me. But a little bit older, a little bit more planning, and an opportunity to make good on the substantial investments that we're making today in equipment, it means that we have to start thinking about those kinds of things. So I figured it would make sense to walk through a little bit of the routine to help make sure that your gear is ready to go when you are. And the first thing I'll start with is your boots. I mentioned in the last podcast that if there was a thing that I really moved forward this year, it was in boots, boot comfort, boot fit. I tried a couple of different ways to get my boots to really be great. Late in the season, I wound up with a pair of zip fits, and I'll save this for a future episode. But let me just say, if someone suggested zip fit to you, it's not right for everybody. The idea of world cupping into your boots, which means putting it on, lacing them up, and then sliding the entire liner from outside the shell into the shell. If you don't know what you're doing, I can imagine it will add frustration to your day. But once you figure it out, man, I have never worn boots so comfortable that make the energy transition from my body to my boot to my binding to my ski so strong. Zip fit's been a cheat code. Getting a great fitting boot is amazing. The idea of having to lose all the work that I did to break that boot in this year would be horrible. And the quickest way to ruin a boot is to put it away wet and have it come back smelling in a way that you do not want to put it anywhere near your foot or even in your car after you wear it. So listen, this is where getting that boot super dry is important. Pull those liners out. If you've got a boot dryer, and you should, leave it on the boot dryer for a day or two. Let it really get dried out. And then put it back together. Put your liners back in when they're totally dry and close your buckles basically to where you have them most of the season. And I've got a super tip. I grab a bar of the Froofy soap that you will find either at a grocery store or in a tiny shop in Vermont, and I throw it in the boot bag. Okay, hear me out on this. This was entirely by accident. Last year, we were up shopping in Vermont and we bought a bar of orange patchouli soap, and I forgot about it. I threw it in a pair of pants, and when I got home, I cleaned it out and it wound up in the bottom of my gear locker. And when I started skiing this year, I opened the gear locker and literally every piece of clothing, every glove, every sock, everything had absorbed the smell of this bar of soap. Now I got lucky because this was a pretty good smelling bar of soap, but it absolutely made all the difference in the world. And it stayed with all the gear that was in there for the entire season. So my recommendation to you is go find one of those Froofy $4 or $5 bars of soap that you love and throw it either in your boot bag or in the bottom of your boot if you're going to keep it inside where it's nice and cool, which you should, and let the smell of that soap be the thing that you smell all season next year instead of the smell of a musty, moldy boot liner. So big tip number one. All right, let's talk about your skis and your board. So you have spent a year skiing on your skis. Maybe it was a low tide year. Maybe you hit a couple of rocks you shouldn't have. Maybe you made some questionable decisions in the side or the back country. Maybe you tried park and you decided to destroy the bases of your skis. This is the right time to do that repair. PTEX is your friend. For those of you who don't know, PTEX is a plastic substance that, when heated, fills the cracks that you have in the bottom of your skis where you've taken out major gouges. It's then cleaned up. You can re-wax your skis and it brings them back, not to new, but it returns your bases to where they need to be. Do that work now. Makes no sense not to. Next, clean up any of the rust that you see on your edges. Rust is cancer for metal. If you don't treat it, it will continue to spread and you will eventually ruin your skis. Skis are crazy expensive these days. So go ahead, get that rust off. And perhaps the most important thing that you can do is storage wax. Get the cheapest wax that you have and melt it all over the bottom of your skis. And do not scrape it off. Don't do a full tune. Just literally let that wax sit on there and keep your bases from drying out all summer long. Now it's time to put those skis away. I know that many people say, let's throw it in the garage, let's put it in the basement. Your skis are perishable items and you want to use them on the slopes. Don't let them die an early death because of where you store them in the off season. Climate control closets are the best opportunity. You don't want them sitting on their tails. See if you can hang them. Store them either horizontally or vertically. If you can get them to hang, that's the best way to do it. But ultimately, you want to keep them from having heat extremes. So if you leave them in a place that they can get really hot, your bases can warp. If you leave them in a place that gets damp, your edges can rust. Just put them somewhere where you have good airflow, pretty solid control around humidity and temperature variation. Do that and you'll be ready to go for the first day of next season. You'll scrape your wax and you'll be ready to roll. That's the way to store your skis or your board. Make sure that you do this now because you'll forget about it and eventually you'll wind up trying to, at the last minute, get your skis in shape. And right now, ski shops in May have got nothing but opportunity. They got nothing but time, baby. So the day one of the season, you're not booking yourself out weeks waiting to get in as everyone's trying to do that final rush. Get that done now. There's a lot of people out there that say you should release the spring tension to the lowest din setting on your bindings. I'm not going to give you advice on what to do here. I assume that there is some kind of liability that would come along with that. Let me tell you what I do. I've never adjusted my bindings at the end of a season. Now, bindings have a 7-year shelf life. That means that shops will generally work on them for 7 years from the time that they're manufactured. In that period of time, I think it's unlikely with modern components that those bindings are going to go bad. But if you're ever worried down the road, you can have them checked. It's usually an adjustment, not a broken part. But I don't ever monkey with this. I leave it alone, and it's never been a challenge for me. I am not suggesting you do that. I'm just saying for me, it's never been a big deal. If you want to, you can release the spring tension on your bindings to the lowest din setting and turn it back next season. I'm a pretty obsessive gear guy, and I don't do that. So let your conscience be your guide. All right, quickly, helmets and goggles. Helmets, same thing as everything else. Make sure they're super dry. If you've got a liner in them, pull it out, either spot wash it or hand wash it, get it good and dry and put it away. Again, you don't want a stinky helmet too close to your nose. You don't want mold. You want it to just be nice and clean and ready to go. Inspect it to see if you took a hard knock. This is a great time to be able to buy gear at the end of the season when everything's on sale. Your helmet's protecting your most expensive ski equipment, your head. So good opportunity if you need to make a change or look for a replacement. Look now, helmet technology doesn't change substantially and you can get a great deal right now. Goggles, the most perishable piece of ski equipment. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to make mirrored faces, something intended to be skied through trees, places where you might fall. I mean, I feel like getting scratched lenses it's a tradition, a rite of passage for skiers. And so this is a good opportunity again, make sure everything's dry, clean the outside, do not clean the inside of your goggles. There is a anti-fog coating on the inside of goggles which is just as perishable as the mirror coating on the outside. And so be very gentle around this because having fogged up goggles takes all of the advantage of wearing goggles out of it. So make sure, clean them up, put them in a dry bag, and put them away somewhere safe. Again, super perishable. Make sure that you've got them cleaned up and ready to go. All right. So you got your hard gear put away. We can skip poles. Poles are the hammers of the ski world. You can throw them in the closet and they'll be good to go. They're pretty much set it and forget it. All right. Hard goods packed away. Everything that you've got left is soft goods. And these places where you've spent some real money. You've got your DWR jacket. You've got your ski pants. You've got your base layer. You got your ski socks. All this equipment that you spent way more money on than you thought you would. You've got all this stuff there. Wash it all. There are some people who believe that you shouldn't wash waterproof material. The truth is, you have to wash it, in particular at the end of a ski season, because oils and dirt will clog up those holes and you'll lose that durable waterproof membrane. And so you've got to wash it, utilize the right soap, either Nick Wax or something like that, intended for technical clothing. Wash it, tumble dry it, and then put it away. This is where you grab another bar of good smelling soap and you throw it in Home Depot. They've got these gasketed tubs. Get a big one, throw all your stuff in it, bar of soap on top. You're good to go. That's the best way to make sure that you're ready to roll for next year. All right, time to talk through where I become what my sister-in-law calls extra. I love my equipment. I'm a gear nerd. I've got a closet here in the Savage Mountain studio where I keep way too many pair of skis. And I bought online a thermostat driven inline fan that will circulate air on either a timer or based on humidity or based on temperature. And I set it to 70 degrees and I set it to a relative humidity of about 50. And when either one of those things are exceeded, it turns this fan on and circulates it over all my skis and all my equipment. I'm not saying that anyone needs to do this, but I might as well highlight what crazy looks like. And that's what crazy looks like. I was able to add a carbon filter to it so it draws out any smells or challenges. But that's what crazy looks like. It's out there. You can go bigger on this. And I did. And, hopefully my skis are ready to go. I'm not sure if they'll actually be appreciative of the climate control that I gave them, but it helps me feel good about the investment that I have made. So, all right. Well, let's look ahead to the 2026-2027 season. Pass buying season, as I mentioned earlier, is now open. Epic and Icon are rolling out price increases every few weeks now, maybe every month, as they start to move closer towards the season. So the best prices are available today. There are also discounts for people who really want to get ahead of the game on booking for next year. Snowbird, which is an amazing mountain. We'll be talking a lot about that this off season. It's actually offering 50% off their accommodations for next year. 50% is a lot of percent. I feel pretty good about making that investment today. And so I haven't done it yet, but I plan on pulling the trigger here soon as I look towards next season. Those opportunities to save 50% won't be here soon. So it's worth thinking about. There is a new Ski California Gold Pass at an eye-popping $4,250. I'm not sure who that's even for. I mean, that is an opportunity to ski all of California. $4,250. I mean, look, I've claimed to be a ski obsessive, but I think if you have the California Gold Pass, you would qualify. And it might be a good deal for some people. I mean, an opportunity to go wherever you want, whenever you want, and ski sounds pretty good. So if you're thinking about next season and you know you're going to do it, why not buy early and save yourself a little bit of money? Because it seems like with inflation and the cost of travel, saving dollars today, those dollars are going to have a home to go to if you want to ski next fall. So I've got a new Substack a review of an excellent book that I'm reading right now called Gnar Country by Stephen Kotler. It is an anthology of a performance scientist who later in life, as a lifelong skier, decided he was going to ski park. He is focused on training methods, mental and physical strategies to be able to really try and boost performance. And I found it fascinating. The book was great. It's funny. Uh, it's an easy read. It's not long. And the audiobook is actually also phenomenal. So if you're not busy listening to the Savage Mountain Collective podcast, it's worth downloading and listening to as you drive to work or go on runs. I mean, ultimately, it's just a fun book. And I found it kind of inspirational. I saw a lot of what I'm trying to do as I think through how I'm trying to build and generate my ski life, drive performance as a guy in his 40s, trying to go back and make up for lost time. I found some really interesting parts in there that were motivating for me. And so we're going to talk about that in the book review. And, it's got a central thesis that ultimately your first idea of getting into or getting back to something is to get comfortable with that thing. And the thesis in this book is that I think that comfort is death of what might be because it allows you to stop your progression before you reach your true potential. So I'll save a little bit of that for the book review. Easy read, worth picking up. And, really, I think it's more than just an opportunity to see his experience, but a chance to kind of think through, not just in skiing, but really anything as we think through life. Are we accepting our limitations? And what happens if we push through them? And this, I'll tell you, this is not the kind of book where everything is easy. There are setbacks, there are trials, there are tribulations, and it's about how do you place those in a context where you overcome them? And I thought it was just really great. So I guess with that, we will go ahead and call a lid on this week. Next week, we'll be back talking more with the majority of the mountains closed and many of the ones remaining closing this week. I guess we will have to get ready for warmer weather. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us on the Savage Mountain Collective podcast. If you've made it this far, I appreciate it. Please hit the bell and get notified when new editions come out. Subscribe, tell your friends, forward it to a family member. Tell people they have to listen and watch. We really appreciate you joining us, and we'll talk to you real soon, and we'll see you later.